So I saw on your Instagram bio, you went from feeling anxious about taking your shirt off to now feeling super confident on being on stage, which firstly, congratulations. That's an amazing transformation. But for someone such as myself, who, I go to the gym and people compliment me on how I look and feel. But for me, I'm still incredibly self-conscious about, how I look. For me, I wouldn't feel happy taking my shirt off. So for me, it's all about wanting to be bigger and leaner. So how did you overcome that? And, is this something which you have to practice on a daily basis? What's that like for you?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And even to kind of like bring that back a little bit for some context, I think the biggest thing for me was when I realized that I went to college to play baseball and things didn't end up working out. Things had happened with coaches and whatnot. And that's also when around COVID hit. So it kind of screwed me up a little bit with seeing that vision of wanting to play at the next level continuously just kind of diminish. And so I was like, okay, well, I'm not working out as much as I was because I'm not practicing every day. I'm not going through all the movements and doing all the things that I was required to do. So I went to school and I was studying exercise and sports science, trying to figure something out with that just because I liked sports in general. And I was having to go to like work at the rec center on my own that the college provided just to figure things out. And at that point, I was like, I kind of knew how to work out, but I was also just doing things to try things out. And so, yeah, long story short, it ended up being to the point where I was beginning of my sophomore year. So that was around 2020. I ended up, just not really liking how I was looking for the fact of I had no idea what meals to eat, the nutrition side of things. I was just lost overall. And so I just remember like freshman year and even into sophomore year, I would go to the cafeteria and I would order like 2 chicken breasts and just put it on a salad and try to eat that like twice, 3 times a day, and then overdo it on cardio. And like nothing was even changing. Like my body wasn't working well. I wasn't feeling good. My fat wasn't going away. And so I got to a point where I actually saw a video, a dude from my hometown that made a crazy transformation, and he was his own online coach. So I decided to reach out. I was like, dude, I need help. I'm stuck. Whatever, just kind of started that conversation there. And long story short, now over basically 8 years later, I've now looked back on that one decision that I've made, and that's changed my life forever. And so for me, it was just getting to the point where I was trying things, but I was stuck. And I've always been a student of the game. I've always wanted to continuously learn and, know the why behind things and reach out for help. I'm not scared to ask for help. I don't have an ego about anything. So I think a lot of times when it comes to people that are newer into the gym or want to take that next step, they're just scared of like even asking for help, which, I get it from a certain perspective, but also for me, I'm like, if I never asked for help, who knows how long I would have went and just feeling in this constant cycle of being stuck. And so he basically ended up getting to the point where we went on like a little bulk for where I was at. I was always like skinny fat, but then I was just, again, unconfident. I could barely see the top 2 part of my abs if I had great down lighting. And I was like, I just don't want to take my shirt off anywhere I go. And it just sucked after a while. So especially being into college. And so finally we ended up going on a little bit of a bulk and ended up putting about 30 pounds in like 4 months, which was crazy. Ended up doing a little sloppily, but that's just kind of how it is. And then we cut down.
You're still at college. You can eat what you want at college.
Exactly. And so ended up cutting down and lost about, I don't even know how many pounds, but anyways, I was like probably 10 to 12 pounds heavier, but I looked leaner and fuller and bigger than when I started. So that was like the instant thing for me. I'm like, so a structured meal plan, knowing exactly what to lift, continuously improving day by day, week, and then reversing that, it actually works. And so that was like the one thing I was like, wow, I love this. This is great. I feel great. And then little by little, I've done in a span of 3 years after that, 7 bodybuilding shows, just trying to figure it all out, trying to do things because I wanted to get as lean as I could for my mental, but also just physical and just build everything up around it. The habits, the consistency, the discipline. That's something that I talk about all the time in my content. And that has been way more of a, I guess, it's helped me out a lot longer in the long term than just what I physically look like. Just because I always preach like you really only have to get in shape one time because you're going to learn everything it takes to do that. And then if you were to go off, you at least now have somewhat of a structure to know how to get back there. And so again, it's been 8 years and I've invested continuously into my coach. He's helped me with every single bodybuilding show I've done. But as I've learned as well from him, alongside hiring other business coaches to help build up my own coaching business and help other people as well. And so, yeah, man, long story short, I honestly forgot your question. So this is what I was talking about. I go on tangents, but long story short, I get to the point of, yeah, man, it came down to me being tired of being tired, wanting to take that next route and ask for help. And once I found that guidance from someone who I knew could help me out, even in the slightest, that's now changed the trajectory of my life forever, because then I started to get into personal training and then online coaching and now building a full up and running full-time business with helping other people a lot in the US, but also have had multiple clients outside the US as well. So being able to say that I've been able to transform someone's life, even to the slightest bit, it's a cool feeling, but that's really just stemmed from, if I never would have asked for help, who knows where within the last 7-8 years where things would have led to. So
it's crazy, isn't it? How many people suffer in silence, and there is plenty of help out there. And I guess, like, what do you feel is stopping people from reaching out to them? Is it a psychological thing? Is it a technical thing? What would you, from your experience, on what's getting in the way there, do you think?
Yeah, that's also a great question. As much as I don't want to say it, I do feel people just like have their own ego to themselves. And, I don't know why. I mean, I can say why certain people do depending on what they've done, but majority of these people, especially that have made a name for themselves, whether it's building a business or education or like literally anything that anyone does, and this is what I'm a true believer in, has had some sort of a mentor, a teacher, a coach to help them out even a little bit. Again, you look at the greats, Tom Brady in American football, you look at Ronaldo, Messi, you look at Michael Jordan, all these people in sports that have been the biggest name and the GOATs of their sport have had a coach or a mentor that brought them up and some sort of point of their career. So it's like, I always look back on sports just because that's kind of how I got brought up into the bodybuilding field, into where I'm at. Like, the things that I've learned was from someone that I wanted to learn from, that I knew could at least help me. And then my coach also has a coach, his coach also has a coach. So being able to have someone in your corner with multiple years of experience and different things that you can learn from and constantly pick the brain from while also helping you, I think that's, something that I believe everyone should and really needs in any route that they decide to take. So there's a few ways and things of why I think people are scared, if you will, to ask and reach out for help. But it simply just comes down to saying, like, hey, man, I can't do this on my own. And if I want the quickest way to find that success, or the best way to make it as easy and simple as possible, is going to be having someone right there alongside you that can make it tailored to you. And kind of off of this as well, I actually had a conversation with my father a couple weeks back, and he was like, why would someone need a coach? Like, can't people just look it up on ChatGPT or YouTube or Google? And I'm like, yeah,
yeah. I hear
it's very true. I mean, definitely can. But why is, especially in the US, majority of people obese, or people all around the world still seeking help or don't know what to do? So everyone knows, and this is what I asked him. I was like, you realize that broccoli is, healthier for you than a piece of candy, right? And he's like, well, yeah. So I'm like, then why currently aren't you in the best physical shape of your life if you know what to eat and you know what not to eat and how to work out and go to the gym and move? And he just kind of like stood there. I'm like, I'm not using this is with me talking to my dad, as this, some sort of thing to come at you. I'm using this to like bring you in and help you realize knowledge isn't the part of things that people don't understand. It's how you apply that knowledge. And a lot of times, more than not, again, it's the ego, but it's also the accountability factor that people can start something, but if they have no goal to reach for, or they have no someone holding them there day by day, week by week, doing the check-in process that I do, actually having to not only let yourself down, but report to a coach as well, with sending physical pictures of yourself and reporting how you feel, how you look, and everything else in between, then most people won't ever do that on their own. And that's why, again, most people that work, whether it's corporate or 9 to 5 or whatever, I've done it. So it's not like it's bad or anything, but like they're the most disciplined people because they rinse and repeat the same thing, and but they have to get told what to do, when to go, when to leave, when to eat. Like all that stuff is told by someone else, and that's how most people perform best. So if you can take that same logic to say, okay, if I want to get into the best shape of my life, I probably will perform better if I'm getting told what to do, what to eat, when to check in, how to move, and all of the guesswork that people pretty much constantly have going on in their head of knowing how to make that next step towards their goal they want. It's taken away by a coach working for them. So,
yeah, I love that. And I think you raise a really interesting point around AI. And I mean, it's a great part of my job as a tech founder. And being in the fitness space, we're sort of presented with an opportunity of like, what do we want the future of personal training to look like? And I have a very strong opinion that I think humans should do human things and automation should do automation things. And so for me, I would love it if trainers could automate all the boring parts of their job so they can spend as much human time, whether that's virtually or in person, with the client, because that's where all the accountability, all the relationships are built. The human elements. I mean, this is a few years ago now, but when I first started on this journey as being a founder, I came across this research, and it was at a university here in England, and they studied two lots of people on rowing machines. And the first one, they were just rowing in a room by themselves, and the second one, they had their teammates literally just watching them, and their performance went up something like 15 or 20%. Just having that human element with you, whether that's physiological or maybe you're self-aware, so there's an element of competition, it doesn't actually matter. Like for me, humans perform so much better with other humans. And I think I'd like to imagine that this world where we all feel quite isolated at the moment is actually quite a short-lived thing. And I think AI is actually going to make us realize what we should be spending our time doing versus what we shouldn't be spending our time doing. And I just think you raise a really interesting point around that in exercise and where your job really comes in. And the fact is that people could have, you could go to bodybuilding.com 10, 15, 20 years ago and find most of the information. Where do you think ChatGPT is getting that information? It's getting it from the internet. So I find it all fascinating. I really do. And do you yourself as a coach end up using AI to help you be more efficient? And if so, where do you find that boundary is between, still feeling like you need to take some ownership versus what can you feel comfortable outsourcing?
Yeah, no, I've actually recently been able to implement it a little bit by, again, all of like the back end work where as much manual stuff that I can put into it, I'm not going to say it's a waste of time, but being able to systemize and I guess optimize things to make it smoother and easier and quicker on my end on my day-to-day activities. That's something that I've definitely been able to, do once within Claude, for example, that I use a lot, to be able to have certain templates or when someone gets started, like the email onboarding process, like that sort of thing is all pretty much automated at this point. While before I would have to have that be manually to every single person, but how I have whenever someone gets onboarded, they get started and then certain things are sent out to them because of them putting their own email and number into my system. So all that like back end stuff where, mind you, I love doing it just because I know for a fact this gives me a chance to generally help change someone's life forever, at least physically. I just still think that with the use of AI, it's great, but also it's a give and take, because I know for a fact there's definitely been coaches that I've seen online that get crazy amount of hate for, or, anyone can just go in and type something randomly on Claude or ChatGPT and they can spit out this crazy long, I don't know, probably customized, if you will, workout and nutrition guide that for the most part, it's probably just a copy and paste from the AI finding it somewhere on a Google spreadsheet anyways, that's already for free. So it's like being able to fully dial in to every single individual person I've been able to still take my own accountability and ownership of really doing the work for every single new person, but the back end side, and especially all the manual extra work that isn't going to create the relationship better or worse with the actual client, that's all systemized now. So I can spend a lot more of that time and interaction with that direct person and just continue to create that actual relationship there, compared to needing to spend extra time for no reason on things that they're like, why is this taking so long to get back to me, or whatever it might be. And so being able to make it as efficient and easy as possible. AI is on the back end, but I'm still going to be that person's coach and making sure everything's going to be efficient and fully tailored to them.
Yeah, I love it. I think you've got the balance exactly right, and I think there's no shame in looking to be more efficient, because like you said, it's you trying to spend as much time as possible with the client, and that's what the client wants. I mean, ultimately, the client wants results, and they're more likely to get those results when you have more time with them. It doesn't take a genius, but I think there is an element of ego within opening yourself up to new technology, because some people do use and abuse these things, don't they? But just sort of last question though, I suppose. So I noticed. So I've spoken to hundreds of trainers, and one of the things which they always struggle with and feel super awkward about is asking for testimonials and transformations. And I was having a little look through your Instagram. You've got a mountain of proof, and so I suppose firstly, was that a skill that you've developed in order to be able to get that proof, and how did you overcome that awkwardness as a coach? Because I'd love to get your thoughts.
As far, and you're referring to like when someone speaks to the camera talking about their experience with me?
Exactly.
Yeah. So for me, man, to be even, I guess, bring it back even a little bit more, was probably about, a little over 3 years ago, before I moved out here to Arizona. I lived in Florida. I was actually working and literally with my coach in the same exact house. And about halfway through that, I was personal training during the days, trying to build an online coaching business at night. But then on the weekends, bartending and serving just to make ends meet while trying to like make something out of nothing. Again, early 20s, just trying to figure it all out. And it got to a point where I was just like stuck there. And I didn't really have the capital to invest into someone to help me within the business side of things. So it was like this weird, like, do I figure this out or do I go a different route? What do I do here? And I got presented with this opportunity basically for like online sales. It was called an industry called network marketing, where essentially you're the middleman of a specific product. We were within the financial markets, helping and showing people how to actually invest and trade and just do all that kind of stuff. So that was pretty cool there. And then there was also a sales side of it where we would essentially be able to build teams and help other people do the same exact thing if they so choose so. So I think by learning from a lot of people in that industry, going to some conferences, getting out of my own comfort zone and literally running like calls with hundreds of people on them for Zoom to break down the information, and then doing one-on-one calls pretty much all day, every day to show people what we were doing, over the course of that time has developed my speaking and communication skills, also picking up the phone and just talking like I'm talking to whoever, but trying to make a point and make that part of my content. So by doing that consistently, nonstop, like I remember it would take me an hour to just talk to a camera to make like a 20 to 30 second video, just because I was messing up so much or I was in my own head. And I've just got so good at that because I was like, dude, I'm going to do this. And it's just been a couple years of that development when no one was seeing it. And that's kind of what it took for me. So to kind of now bring that to answer your question, by getting now into the fitness side of things, I think from the jump, am so straight up and real with people with what this all looks like, having consistent communication, being able to actually see and prove results. And so by being able to do that, sometimes people would just text me randomly things that I would put as like my text actual testimonials, or I would post up my actual transformation pictures that I do, obviously asking for their consent if they don't mind being on camera whenever I post them. And then, really it would be to where I would just ask some of the people that I'm working with, whether it's in their first month, 3 months, 6 months, like, hey man, we've done so many things so far. What would be, your biggest thing that you would probably tell anyone working with me? And then I would just be like, well, do you mind? This would be over like our actual check-in calls week to week. And so
Hmm.
off of them telling me that already, I'm like, well, do you
Yeah,
mind just making that into your own little testimonial video that I could post up to show? And
that's
majority
great.
of
That's
them,
very clever.
yeah, majority of them have no problem at all. Mind you, there's been a couple that were like, I just don't feel comfortable talking to the camera. I don't want to do that. By all means, no worries. And then some people would just like write out a text instead. And I would just try to use that the
Hmm.
best I can.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really think it just comes down to if you're straight up and real with someone from the beginning, if you build that relationship that I've talked about and are a human to human interaction. Like you don't got to worry about just being some sort of bot and just doing it for the money that I know a lot of people actually do. I care more about
Hmm.
helping someone than I do. And I think that's come a long way with actually creating those true testimonials. And
Hmm.
yeah, every single person that I ask for one of those, most of the time they're cool with it because of the relationship we've built and the actual proof of what I've done for them works. And they have no problems talking about it. So, I think that may be a
I love
difference
that.
between, not to give myself like a pedestal here, but like me and some other coaches potentially where, a lot of people don't care to do that because they generally don't build a relationship, even if they do get results, or they feel like they're just not in communication, or they feel like they're better than their clients. Like I always make sure that we're down here together. And yes, there's some sort of level of authority. Obviously, you're investing into a coach, and that's how we build a relationship from the beginning. But I always let them know, like, hey, if I'm pretty much on my laptop, my PC, my phone 24/7, if you have any text calls, questions, concerns at all, whenever, and if I'm not sleeping or on
Hmm.
another call, I promise you I'm going to answer and you can talk to me about anything. So by being able to open that up and just letting them know, like, I'm here for them, even if it's outside of a
Yep.
coaching question, that's genuinely have built great relationships within every single person I've worked with.
That's fantastic. And I mean, I really like the idea of them getting to confess or talk, in a check-in on a call,
Mhm.
them, you ask them, so if you were to say something, what would you say? And then they can hear that back in their own words. And then all of a sudden it
Exactly.
lowers the client's barriers of like, first you're thinking about what to say and then saying that out loud. And then the idea of making a video afterwards doesn't seem so bad.
Mhm.
And I was also just going to ask you quickly, how important do you feel proof, so transformations and testimonials, how important do you find that is for your business? Like, do you find that that has a big impact on new people that want to come on board? And what's that like?
Yeah, that's actually a really good question. I'll be honest, man. Like, I don't think as much as that I do it. Like, I don't think that's a huge thing, especially nowadays when it comes to proof. I really just think if you're able to show one, like the emotional side of having someone relate with you, and then two, being able to show kind of relatability of where you were, and obviously showing where you're at now and kind of your own transformation. I think that's most important. Like I use that
It's
from
really
for me
interesting.
a lot of times more than not for sure. But also I always want to have the proof just because anyone can
Hmm.
pretty much, put themselves through X amount of crazy diets or whatever to get in crazy shape, but can you help other people? And so there are
Hmm.
probably, as much as you would think, honestly, less than more people that actually say, like, hey, man, where's like, do you have proof of helping other people? That's not really asked too often, at least to me. And people still get locked
Hmm.
in, whether they see that or not. They just like how I present myself. They like my confidence. They related with something that I posted based off my own transformation. And that's kind of what starts the initial lock in process. But also by having multiple transformations from different people and their own perspectives, that person can probably relate to them a little bit better because of, hey, this is a dad of 3 kids that's 40 years old that got his confidence back in the matter of 6 months and he was working 10-hour days. This is how he did it. And this is what we helped him. This is his transformation. That can relate a lot better to that sort of direct personnel compared to me, who's in his mid 20s, doesn't have any kids, has X amount of
Hmm.
time to do this, that made this transformation from college. So there's definitely a give and take when it comes to that. But yeah, I mean, again, long story short, I really think it's not needed too much. But I do think that kind of initial process of having multiple transformations and testimonials of other people you've been able to help as well is more of a plus than not. And that could be the initial eye of like, shoot, if I posted this person 4 weeks in a row on my story, maybe the fifth time I posted them, that person that's been looking at my story every single time finally is like, dang, he was able to do it. I want to reach out now. So it's just like constantly having that.
Yeah.
And continuously showing the proof from not only your perspective, but relating to them on an emotional level of meeting them where they're at and knowing they can get out of it, along with having other people, you know, as proof. I think just having that all together is going to be your pretty much perfect piece of the pie. So
I love that. That's brilliant. I've got to be honest. I wasn't expecting you to say that because, you know, I think lots of coaches over-index on proof, and
they do.
And actually, like you say, you know, a lot of people are like, I want to be in the sort of shape you're in, rather than I want to be in the sort of shape your clients are in. It's funny, isn't it?